Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Nitya Roundup, April 2021 edition. We hope all of you are safe and healthy, and please take care well of yourself, considering rise in COVID cases. And as a firm, we have totally shifted to work from home mode, considering the second wave, which has started. In this edition, I'm joined by my colleague Raman Bansal, who is a senior associate in our firm. This being the first edition of the new financial year, it holds importance because there are multiple changes which have been done and not done under customs and foreign trade policy. Similarly, many important rulings have come up. Plus, most of you would have done filings of GSTR 9, 9C, annual returns, etc. till 2019-20. This year also holds importance because for some of you, the audits or assessment proceedings would have started, or these are likely to start in next few months. So whatever tax positions we have taken, correctness of that will be verified or challenged by authorities in the current year. With this, we start today's edition. So we'll be covering changes and rulings, and thereafter we'll have live Q&A where we will mute you and you can ask your question live on the screen. So my colleague Raman will be taking over the changes part. Over to you, Raman.
Yes. Thank you, Puneet. Good morning, everyone. We will start our webinar with the recent changes under GST law. Recently, Department has issued a circular clarifying various issues to be faced by taxpayer while filing refund application. So we will discuss one by one. First clarification is about ITC availability in case of deemed export supply. First, we need to understand what is deemed export supply. Deemed export supply refer to those supplies which are made to advance authorization holder or export promotion capital goods authorization holder or EOU. And there shall be a levy of GST on such supplies. But either supplier or recipient can avail ITC, can claim refund of the such GST paid on such supplies. But there was a restriction on the recipient to avail ITC on deemed export supply if he wishes to claim refund of the same. But GST portal does not allow recipient to claim refund unless such amount is debited from ECL, Electronic Credit Ledger. So department has clarified that recipient can avail ITC on deemed export supply and such amount shall get debited from the ECL while filing refund application. Second clarification is about manner of calculation of adjusted total turnover. Rule 89, Sub-Rule 4 provides the manner of calculation of refund amount for claiming for refund of ITC in relation to zero-rated supplies, which is as follows: net ITC into turnover of zero-rated supply divided by adjusted total turnover. So earlier government has restricted the value of turnover of zero-rated supply up to 150% of value of like goods, which is domestically supplied. So now department has clarified that same value shall be taken into consideration while calculating the value of adjusted total turnover. Now we come to third clarification, which is about extension of relaxation for filing refund claim. Earlier, government gave relaxation to exporter of services or supplier supplying zero-rated supplies to SCG for filing refund claim, irrespective of the fact whether such supply have been shown under zero-rated supplies or not. This is subject to the condition that IGST paid during the refund period should exceed the amount of IGST being claimed. Earlier, this relaxation was for period from July 17 to June 19. But now department has extended this period up to March 21. Now we proceed to other recent changes under GST. Wider notification, government mandated taxpayer having aggregate turnover of more than 500 CR in any of the preceding year, he shall be required to print QR code on all the invoices raised on unregistered person. So initially, this notification was effective from December 1, 2020, but government extended the applicability of this notification from April 1. And now government has again extended the applicability of this notification from July 1st, 2021. Now coming to next point, there was in the news that government is planning to include GST in UPI QR code, which would enable recipient to get to know the GST component in the total value he is paying to the supplier. Now we come to recent changes under customs law. Recently, government has notified Common Customs Electronic Portal as a common portal, which can be used for various functions like for filing bill of entry, shipping bill, for payment of custom duties, and for various other functions. This is an important change government has made. Before this change, Section 46 of the Customs Act stated that importer was required to fill bill of entry by end of the next day of arrival of vessel, aircraft or vehicle. So, for example, if vehicle, aircraft or vessel arrives on April 15, then before this change, importer was required to fill bill of entry by April 16. But after this amendment, in case of vessels, importer is required to fill bill of entry by April 14 in the same example. And in case of arrival of vessels from Bangladesh, Maldives, Myanmar, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, or in case of arrival of aircraft or vehicle, importer is required to fill bill of entry by April 15. So this is something against, this change is something against to the importers. Now, we come to new regulations under customs. In Finance Act 2019, government has introduced a new section 99B under Customs Act, which empowers the proper officer to verify the identity of importer and exporter for the protecting the interest of revenue. In accordance with that section, government has brought a new regulations which talk about the procedure to be followed by department for verification of identity of selected person. So selected persons can be importer, exporter or customs broker. This selected person would have to submit documents like incorporation identity, PAN card, Aadhaar card within 15 days on a common portal. Then after submission of the documents, proper officer will do physical verification of place of business and will evaluate the financial position basis the document within 45 days. And that verification will get failed if identity could not be established, and verification will get succeed if identity could be established. In both the cases, proper officer would have to submit a verification report within 60 days to the Commissioner of Customs. And then Commissioner of Customs basis that verification report will determine his outcome within 15 days. And in case any person has not submitted any document or has submitted incorrect document, then Commissioner may suspend all the benefits available to such person like sanctioning of refund, sanctioning of drawback, clearance of imported or exported goods. And after suspension, if such person submits all the documents and correct documents, then Commissioner of Customs may restore those benefits. Further, Commissioner of Customs may impose penalty on selected person up to Rs 50,000 in case any person fails to comply with any of the above regulations. Important to note here that this regulation has not yet been notified by government, so we need to keep track when these regulations get notified. Now we come to recent news under FTP. As we all know that WTO has passed an order against Indian MEIS and SCI scheme as under FTP, being violative of WTO subsidy and countervailing measures agreement. and India has filed an appeal also before the standing appellate body, but which is still pending. And due to pendency of that appeal, government has extended the applicability of foreign trade policy and handbook of procedure by further 6 months from March 31st, 2021 to September 2021. Consequently, government has extended the exemption available to EOU and AA holder and EPCG holder from payment of IGST and compensation cess on import to be made up to a period of March 22. This is an important change, to claim MEIS benefit for export made in 1920, exporter was required to file MEIS application by March 31st, 2021 without any late cut. But exporters were facing a lot of difficulty in filing the application on DGFT portal. So government has given a relaxation to exporter to file this application by September 2021 without any late cut. And if any exporter submits an application after this date, then late cut shall be applicable accordingly. Now, fate of SCI's benefits for financial year 18-19 and 19-20 is still unclear. There was in the news that due to lack of fund, government may end incentives for the service exports in the future. Newly introduced RoDTEP scheme by Indian government has been again questioned by US at WTO, and it would be interesting to see whether story would repeat as in case of FTP. Next point is government introduced RoDTEP scheme in Jan 2021 without notifying any rate, and recent news stated that Revenue Department is vetting Pillai panel report on RoDTEP rate, and government should notify these rates at the earliest to ensure smooth functioning of businesses. Another point is Indian FTA partner have raised an objection at WTO that Indian Carota rules are raising non-tariff barrier trade to them because it has increased operational cost and submission of extra documents. So they have raised their objection at WTO for continuation of Carota rules. Thank you everyone. Now I request Puneet to take the session forward. Over to you, Puneet.
Thank you, Raman, for taking us through these changes. And some of these changes were very important. Now coming to the rulings, so starting with just one. Yeah. So to start with, the first and foremost ruling, which is relevant for all of us, is validity of show cause notices issued by DRI. So this is a Canon India ruling. So the issue was that, say for example, a taxpayer has imported goods, and subsequently there are issues relating to classification, valuation, etc. raised by DRI. What is the validity of such show cause notices? So in this ruling, the taxpayer challenged the authority of DRI to issue such notices. So this is what Supreme Court held. One Supreme Court held that Section 28(4) of the Customs Act, it empowers the proper officer to issue show cause notice. So a lot of reliance was placed by the Supreme Court on the use of the word "the." Based on this word, the court concluded that the powers have been conferred to a specific officer and not to any proper officer. The court also held that power to recover duty. So for example, if the DRI questions a classification, valuation, etc., the power to review recover duty is with the authority who has done assessment earlier and not with anyone. Therefore, even if DRI is a proper officer, still it cannot issue show cause notice because it has not passed the initial assessment orders. The court also relied on Section 6 of the Customs Act that no such powers has been entrusted by central government to DRI, and therefore the court concluded that DRI is not empowered to issue show cause notice. So on same logic, in Karnataka High Court in case of Waters India, even the show cause notices issued by DGGSTI have been challenged, and the Karnataka High Court has stayed the notice, applying the rationale of Canon India ruling. So we have made a small video on this issue covering the details of the issue, but to sum up, even though this ruling may be correct on merits or on the technical flaw it has been pointed out, so it was never intended by government that DRI or DGGSTI cannot issue show cause notices. So even though this ruling has given temporary relief to the taxpayers, but we can expect a retrospective amendment very soon, and because such retrospective amendment will be made to correct unintended drafting error in the law, such retrospective amendment will be valid. So to sum up, yes, it has brought a relief to taxpayers, but the relief may not last long. Second important ruling is on classification of relays, and this is very important for taxpayers who supply goods, parts of railways, parts of automobiles, etc. So this is Supreme Court ruling in case of Westinghouse Saxby Farmer. So in this case, the taxpayer was having issue of classification of relays, whether it will fall under heading 8608, which under GST law it attracts 12% GST, or it falls under heading 8536 from a GST perspective, which attracts 28% GST. So this is what Supreme Court held, that general interpretative rules are applicable when classification cannot be determined from headings and sections or chapter notes. In this case, 8608 covered parts of railways, whereas chapter 85 covered railways specifically. The court applied note 3 of section 17, which says that parts suitable for use solely or principally with an article of chapter 86 cannot be classified in different chapter. Basis this, the court held that the goods are classifiable under heading 8608 basis their predominant or sole or principal use. So again, on this also we have made a small video which is available on YouTube. But to summarize, in our view, this ruling is absolutely incorrect, even though in this case this has given relief to the taxpayer because the rate of tax was lower under chapter 86 as compared to chapter 85. But if we go through the section and chapter notes closely, if the goods are specifically covered under a specific chapter or heading, like relays in this case under 8536, that classification only was to be adopted, even if the goods were meant principally or solely for use of railways only. Plus, unfortunately, the Supreme Court neither appreciated correct classification principles nor abundant jurisprudence on this point. So, under GST regime, in our view, this ruling can open a Pandora box because the same issue comes up in a flip way. Goods of chapter 84-85 in general attract 18% GST, whereas heading 8708 attracts 28% GST. So the department can rely on this ruling and seek to classify all the goods under chapter 87 and charge 28% GST. The next ruling is rectification of GST returns. So this is Gujarat and Madras High Court rulings. So in this case, the taxpayer committed error in submitting details in GSTR 1 or 3B. And as we are aware that there is no facility to rectify these returns in general or after a specified period. So the question before the court was, how can a taxpayer rectify these returns? So the courts noticed that the proposed return mechanism, which is GSTR 2, 1A, 3, etc., has not been notified. Had these been notified, the taxpayer would have proper mechanism to do the rectification. So basis that, the courts exercised their extraordinary powers and directed department to allow the rectification. On similar lines, GST portal issues. So in this case, Gujarat High Court was dealing with a situation that the exporter exported goods on payment of GST and committed errors in filing GSTR 1 as far as reporting of these export transactions are concerned. Because of such errors, there was a mismatch of data between GST portal and IceGate, and the refund was withheld. So the petitioner relied on circular of May 2018 before the High Court, which said that in case of such errors, the petitioner can approach Customs Zonal Office with copy of GSTR returns and a CA certificate. Such an application will be escalated to Customs Policy Wing. Once GSTN sends a confirmatory mail to exporter, the records will be transmitted and refund will be sanctioned. So the court directed revenue to apply this circular and grant refund to the taxpayer. Next, another very important ruling is on interest recovery, whether DRC 01 can be issued or not. Again, a Gujarat High Court ruling. In this case, a summary of show cause notice was issued under DRC 01 for interest recovery on gross liability. Many of you are aware that till past some time, there were a lot of disputes whether interest is payable on gross or net, and then the government amended the law, etc. But here the question was not whether interest is on gross liability or net liability. So this is what the court held. The court held that DRC 01, which is summary of show cause notice, can be issued only for provisions which are specified under Rule 142(1). Because the interest is levied under Section 50, which is not specifically covered under Rule 142(1), hence DRC 01 is not legally valid. The court also held that recovery should be done under Section 79. Why DRC 07? In our view, this ruling is not correct because Section 50 only creates liability of interest or creates a levy of interest. As far as recovery provisions are concerned, those are under Section 73 only, which talks about recovery of tax, credit, interest, penalty, etc. Section 73 specifically mentioned under Rule 142. So in our view, legally DRC 01 can be issued for interest recovery. Another important advanced ruling on this prepaid instruments, which are called as vouchers, etc. So this is the AAAR in case of Kalyan Jewellers. So the taxpayer was issued two type of PPIs, which are prepaid instruments, which we can call as vouchers or semi-closed PPI. So to sum up, this is what the court held on its taxability. The court held that voucher is an instrument which is meant for advance payment of consideration. So say for example, I have bought a gift voucher from Kalyan Jewellers of 1 lakh rupees and I want to gift it to my friend. So what effectively I'm doing is I'm making an advance payment of 1 lakh to Kalyan Jewellers to get that voucher. Voucher per se is neither goods nor service. It is classifiable basis supply associated with voucher. This is very important. So the authority held that suppose that voucher can only be used for buying jewelry from Kalyan Jewellers, Therefore, the voucher has its identity linked with the jewelry only, because that's a supply which can be done basis that voucher. The authority held that time of supply will be date of issuance of voucher, and tax rate will be as applicable on associated goods. So this is a first ruling on this point on taxability of vouchers, which the advanced ruling authority held to the contrary. But in our view, AAAR has laid down correct position on taxability, time of supply, as well as tax rate. Now, GST on parking charges recovered from employees. We have seen in GST regime so many dispute on employee recoveries. So this is a Iron Trading India AAAR. In this case, the employer was providing parking facility to its employees. It was recovering car parking charges, and it was remitting as this amount as it is to the building authorities from whom it has taken the building on rent. So it was not earning any markup, etc. So AAAR held that all conditions of pure agent under Rule 33 have been satisfied in this case. The taxpayer qualifies as pure agent as far as collection of parking charges are concerned, and they held that therefore the value of supply is nil. In our view, this ruling is incorrect, because pure agency means that the building authorities were providing services directly to employees, whereas in this case, the privity of contract was between the employer and building authorities only. In our view, the employer was liable to pay GST on this. Another ruling, GST on transportation recovery from employees. This is advanced ruling authority. In this case, the employer was procuring transportation services from a third party and providing it to employees at a subsidized price. So the authority held that supply by employer to employee is not liable to GST basis the press release. It also held that arranging transport facility is not ancillary or incidental to the business of employer, and therefore it's not a service. So again, in our view, this ruling is incorrect, because firstly, both the GST law as well as press release does not exempt supply from employer to employee. It's other way around. It exempts supplies from employee to employer only. In our view, the definition of business is very wide enough to cover such transactions. These are surely ancillary or incidental to business. Therefore, again, in our view, employer was liable to pay tax on this. So again, on these employee recoveries, you'll find many contrary rulings, some saying that these are taxable and others not. A very favorable and again an important ruling as to ITC on CSR activities. This is the advanced ruling authority. So in this case, the taxpayer was constructing school building, supplying furniture, electrical goods, etc. as part of CSR. So this is what the authority held, that CSR is not a voluntary activity, it's a mandate under Companies Act, essential part of business. Therefore, ITC is allowed. On the question whether the goods given as part of CSR will qualify as gift or not, the authority held that gifts are voluntary and occasional in nature, whereas these goods are supplied as per mandate of law. The authority also noted that there is no restriction under section 17(5) under this. As far as ITC on procurements for construction of school building is concerned, the authority held that the restriction is only to the extent of capitalization, and therefore the credit is available. In our view, this ruling is correct on the principle of allowing ITC on CSR expenses, and in our earlier sessions also we have highlighted this point, and there is jurisprudence under service tax law also allowing credit on this. The only point which we disagree in this ruling is allowing credit on construction of school building. In our view, construction activities specifically barred under Section 17(5), irrespective of capitalization. Therefore, the authority erred in allowing credit on construction activity. We again thank you for joining in large number, and we'll meet you with our next roundup edition.